because we never know how it's going to be until you talk to somebody. Certain people you think that, big names are just, they're so interesting. And
You've done a lot of episodes.
yeah.
When did you start?
I started end of 2019. Okay. And, I have some awesome people here at the Legacy, right? And quality people, black belts, non-black belts. And so it's been fun just connecting with them. And they have such, like, world-class, like, different things, right? Like break dancers, musicians, right? Artists. Yourself, like a professional. How long you've been an attorney for?
I've been doing this, 28 years, 27 and a half years.
27.
I started in late 1997.
Wow. Any? You think would you have done anything different?
So I think my journey is probably similar to a lot of guys my age, our generation. I know I'm a little bit older than you, but
still the same.
The early 1990s, 1993 was the first UFC, right?
Right, correct.
So that was an eye-opener for me, and I think a lot of guys who had an interest in martial arts at the time. Mm-hmm. So I had a bit of a background in Taekwondo, and like a lot of guys.
Did you grow up doing Taekwondo as a kid?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Korea. So I did it when I was a little kid. And then when my family moved out of Korea, I didn't do it for a while. And then I picked it back up in college. I was going to UCLA at the time. And I was done with the regular sports. And I wanted something to do other than just going to the gym and lifting weights. So I joined a Taekwondo school in the area. There was a very well-known instructor, Hee-Il Cho, who had a big school in West LA, right on Pico. So I joined that school, and I was into it. I was doing it for a while, and then I graduated college. I went to law school, so I was very well into my professional path at the time. And then this thing came on, pay-per-view or whatever it was, and
cage fight,
yeah,
which is the best martial arts style, right?
That's right, and it was fascinating, and I was intrigued, and so I guess I owe my initial interest in jiu-jitsu to watching Royce Gracie fight in the UFC, and
like so many, right?
Like so many, and then I kind of observe the evolution of MMA and jiu-jitsu and how people understood it and perceived it, and I just kept doing it. So I was never on a competition path for jiu-jitsu, primarily because when I started doing it, I was 28, 29 years old. I was already into my law career, which is a pretty demanding career, so I just never had the ability to train properly to compete. So I was always a hobbyist, a guy who just trained, and the time sparring on the mat with the guys at the school, or if they're visitors,
right,
rolling with those guys, that kind of became my competition.
Yeah. It was different in those days too, right? The school. It was kind of Fight Club days, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah, it was the mentality. The mentality
you can
was
be a hobbyist, but you have to represent.
You represent, and it was kind of come into the cave, and this is our cave, and are you with us or aren't you? And the idea of visiting schools back then was not really in vogue, right?
Yeah.
If you came in from somewhere, unless you had someone at the school to vouch for you, you were looked at with a level of suspicion.
Right. Yeah, it's what things have changed so much, right? Since those days.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's amazing, and it just keeps changing. And yeah, I think people are always going to debate whether it's changing for the better or for the worse, and probably, in all honesty, it's probably a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, I think so. You learn faster because of all the tools we have, right? But I think the one of the old school things that's great, right, is the human connection.
Yeah.
And you know, there's no phones on the mat. There's no technology. It's just me and the other person. And
Yeah. And I think one thing that's very different is back then in the 90s and early 2000s, I think primarily the folks you saw training were either aspiring fighters or aspiring full-timers, folks that wanted to own their own jiu-jitsu school at some point, or people like me that, for whatever reason, had an interest in self-defense and fighting, and the idea of being proficient, being able to defend yourself, defend your family, that was important to them. Now, I think, in addition to those folks, you have people from all backgrounds and perspectives. People do it because they find it fun. They do it for the athletic training.
Yeah.
They do it for the social connection. I mean, look at our school, right? The culture you've built here, it's so diverse, and it just brings in great people with all kinds of interests and all kinds of reasons for why they do jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the quality of life, right? The quality of life, like you see all these big chain gyms now, right? And kind of evolving into kind of just wellness, just more boutique kind of things, right?
Yeah.
Human connection, and I think, you know, even though they're maybe they're not jiu-jitsu, this is a part of, I think, that movement, right? Of just old school things in a way of just slowing things down and connecting.